Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to World's Finest Comic Book Wednesday. This is an ongoing collaboration between the forces of stately Vaughan Manor and Hyde Cottage, where Michael K. Vaughan and I talk about the comic books that have misshaped our lives. We started out, as the title of the series might imply, with Marvel Comics Epic Collections, uh, which I have, but not within reach in this room. Paperback reprints of Marvel Comics, some great and not so great runs in their past. But we've branched out. We're now talking about DC Comics, Marvel's great competitor, the home of, at least at first, great superheroes who did not need the psychoanalyst couch, did not have feet of clay. It was the bad guys who had feet of clay, and mixed emotions and conflicted motives and whatnot. Not the DC, not the real heroes. And today, we're talking about a character named Adam Strange. There's Adam Strange with his weird aerodynamic fin helmet and his ray gun and his jetpack. Bright red costume with the X there is the thing that's holding on the jetpack. That is, he has a collar with a star on it, and he has the X is the jetpack strapped to his back. And I know what you're wondering. You're wondering what a little boy Steve wondered himself, which is, well, then why wouldn't the jetpack just fly right off his effing body? Wouldn't you more attach it to his belt than to a harness that's just sitting on his chest? That won't work. Even a little boy could know that won't work aerodynamically. That will just fly off his body or cut his head off. And it raises, the question about his bum as well. Jetpacks always do. If your imagination is bum inclined, then you're going to wonder, why don't all these heroes who have jetpacks roast their own tuchuses off? But that is Adam Strange. And Adam Strange was invented in the late 50s and is my second favorite DC hero of them all, after Superboy. I don't think Michael knew that. I don't think he gave me a choice here this week. He's setting our inventory for these Comic Book Wednesdays. And he gave me a choice that was a classic Lady and the Tiger choice. He gave me a choice of an extremely dumb team of losers that I'm sure he'll pick next. And Adam Strange, who I don't think he knew, but but was a favorite of Little Boy Steve. Little Boy Steve never missed an issue of Mystery in Space where Adam Strange appeared for year after year after year after year after year, having great adventures that were written by, they were actually the creative team behind quite a few of them is a creative team that we've seen already. We saw it with the Justice League, the Silver Age Justice League, which was written by Gardner Fox and drawn by Mike Sekowsky. That combination was often true for Adam Strange. And if you've got Gardner Fox writing a story, then you know what you're going to get and you know what you're not going to get. And in that combination, it was exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I still want from comics, but of course I can't get it anymore. Which is a great, clever plot that's resolved happily at the end. I know, it sounds absolutely subversive now, doesn't it? But Adam Strange was the brainchild of Julie Schwartz, who was the greatest editor in the history of Superman. And he is an Earth archaeologist, an adventurous Earth archaeologist who uncovers mystical items and sheds light on lost civilizations and whatnot. The kind of archaeologist that you would never find in the real world. But periodically, he is zapped by a thing called a Zeta beam that brings him to the planet Ran, 25 million light years away. And the first time that happens, he is rescued from, Ran is beset by monsters and weird phenomenon, flying lenses and whatnot, metal birds, everything you could imagine. Ran is beset by these things all the time. And he's rescued from one of them by a young lady named Alana in his first visit to Ran. And he immediately, in classic Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon style, Adam Strange is very much Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, he falls in love with her. And her father is a leading scientist in Ran's leading city, Zardoth. And he explains that he built the Zeta beam originally just to talk to another planet. He had no idea that it could be changed warped somehow into a transport beam. He never intended it as a transport beam. And that's never explained. The science in all of these Adam Strange stories, it's funny because they're explicitly science fiction stories, and yet the science is so incredibly wonky. So incredibly wonky. And the Zeta beam charges Adam Strange's body with Zeta radiation, and he's on Ran only as long as that radiation lasts, and then he snaps right back to Earth, which gave even to my young eyes, it gave a kind of a wistful feeling to the love story between Adam Strange and Alana, because he can't stay. The Zeta beam is not reliable. Its radiation is what brings him to Ran, but it's the dissipation of its radiation sends him back. So just when he is ready to steal a kiss, or just when he's ready to settle down and hold hands or whatever, he's whisked back to Earth, back to his humdrum existence as an archaeologist. But on Ran, he becomes a champion. He doesn't dress like that in his archaeological conferences. He dresses like that on Ran. He becomes essentially Ran's superhero. He dons a jetpack, he dons a ray gun, and he starts solving all of these problems. There's never a time when Adam Strange in any adventure faces something with fisticuffs. There's never a time in any of his early adventures in Mystery into Space when he isn't completely outclassed. We're talking gigantic spaceships, monstrous aliens, monstrous creatures, inexplicable phenomena that are the size of whole cities. And he has to figure out a way to stop them using his wits and only a little bit of technology. It's not like he's pulling miracle gizmos out of that pouch on his side on a regular basis. Now he has his ray gun, he has his jetpack to get him from place to place, but he mostly has his wits. He mostly solves these things by figuring them out and figuring out their weaknesses. This is the old archive edition, the hardcover reprint of Adam Strange. Once upon a time, I had all 3 volumes of these, and I don't anymore, and I don't know why. I don't know where they are. I must have got rid of them somehow, but I find that hard to believe because I loved these, and I would actually prefer them to the otherwise very enviable, enormous omnibus that Michael holds up. If you've watched Michael K., I'll leave a link to Michael's video, and if you watched his previous video, you saw his tour of his comic book collection, which shows you not only how big that comic book collection is, but how deeply, clinically insane Michael K. is, which I guess you all knew when you subscribed to his channel. He has a huge omnibus with a Darwin Cook cover of the classic Mystery in Space, Adam Strange adventures. And the only reason, it's beautiful. The only reason I don't envy it as opposed to these hardcover volumes is that these hardcover volumes were actually readable. They were slim. You could pull one down and read it. Reread it, whatnot. Marvel also did, or DC also did a run of black and white cheap paperback reprints, the showcase editions, with really bad ink that wore off when you were using it, and there was one of those for Adam Strange as well. But I had these. No idea why I don't still have them. Halfway tempted to go on eBay and see what someone's asking for them, probably the moon and the stars, so I probably won't do that. But these have deep, deep sentimental value for me. I know every one of these stories backwards and forwards because I read them so well. I read them so lovingly, and you might not think that would be true because Adam Strange doesn't have any superpowers. But I still, the exoticism of it, I just loved it. Although, the stories were great, don't get me wrong, but there are a couple of problems with them, which even wee little tyke Steve was aware of. The number one problem is coincidence. That he falls in love with the daughter of the man who invented the ray that happens to bring him to this planet, and that ray has just so happens to have been altered, unbeknownst to its creator, so that it can not only communicate information, but transport a living being. That's not a small thing. That's a gigantic cascade of coincidences. But also, there's the other question that comes up once you've gobbled up a couple of these great old Adam Strange adventures. A question starts to crop up, which is, what on earth did Ran do before Adam Strange? The cities and people are constantly plagued by these weird science fiction menaces. They didn't start up when Adam Strange showed up. We're told in many stories that they are familiar to the citizens of Ran. He's just coming up with a way to fight them. Well, why was there no Ranian champion? Why was it Adam Strange who had to do this? And also, how could it be Adam Strange? A lifelong academic, a lifelong archaeologist. How could he suddenly be this great hero. I mean, that's a great story, a great premise, that adverse circumstances will tap the hero inside all of us. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, what if it hadn't been Adam Strange? What if it had been one colleague over, who's 300 pounds and wheezes when he goes up a flight of stairs or something like that? Again, the coincidences just build up and don't seem to make any sense. Why wouldn't Iranians have come up with solutions of their own? Why would they need a champion from another world? But that's what Adam Strange becomes. He becomes the champion of Ran. And that is a neat story because he's not known on Earth. He's not a hero on Earth. There's a wonderful, DC Comics had a regular monthly team-up comic book called DC Presents, where Superman would team up with a different character every month. And there was an issue where he teams up with Adam Warlock, which was a dream come true for me, the two great heroes of DC Comics teaming up together. And it was drawn by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, which is just icing on the cake because the artwork was beautiful throughout. But the gimmick of that plot was that the Zeta beam mixes things up and transports Superman to Ran, and Adam Strange is on Earth. But he has his Ranian getup. He has his jetpack and his ray gun, and there's an emergency at Star Labs, and he saves the day. And Jose Luis Garcia Lopez has a great panel where he's grinning from ear to ear and signing autographs. He's never been a hero on Earth before. And Superman, of course, faces Kanjar-Ro, Adam Strange's signature villain. One of the only real memorable villains that Adam Strange usually faces phenomenon or weird creatures, but Kanjar-Ro is an actual villain, an actual bad guy, with insect-like eyes, compartmentalized eyes. Very interesting visual touch. As I grew older, and Adam Strange had a couple of really, really great issues where he guest starred in the Justice League of America, the Justice League becomes aware of him. And he becomes a sort of an ally, almost a kind of adjunct member of the Justice League, even though he's not a hero on Earth. And I loved those issues, absolutely loved them. And as time wore on, I started to think of a very good take on Adam Strange, a thing that someone could write, a novel, for instance, that someone could write, or a series of novels, in which Adam Strange, the archaeologist, doesn't actually go to Ran. that instead, all of these outrageous adventures are daydreams that he has about being incredibly effective, about being the hero of a whole world. The kind of dreams of glory that some kinds of academics you stereotypically have, and you find them in fiction, you find them in memoirs. I thought about a realization of Adam Strange in which the monsters of Ran, the monster in, let's say, the new adventure on Ran, is some sort of perversion or warped version or funhouse version of some academic problem, problem student, a problem administrator, a problem colleague that the archaeologist Adam Strange was having in his normal human Earth life, and that the adventure spins out from there every issue, so that you get a combination of great sarcasm, satire and social commentary, but also science fiction adventure. I think I could write a novel like that. I think I could make it enjoyable. Where, of course, all of the great pile of inconsistencies and coincidences is resolved right away, of course. The Adam Strange stories that we get in these great archive editions read like the literal fantasies of someone who is a desk-bound academic. They read over the top. Adam Strange should not prevail in any of these stories, and yet he does in every single one of them through and he gets the girl. I like that interpretation better, that take on Adam Strange, where he never actually goes to Ran at all, where he's just a daydreaming academic, a daydreaming archaeologist. That take has never been used, as far as I know, on Adam Strange, but oh my, there's no way to talk about this character without talking about all the takes that have been used. DC Comics hardly has a character who has been more thoroughly abused in continuity, in-house continuity, than this character. The age at which the archive edition, the Silver Age Adam Strange in Mystery Into Space, the ones that are all collected in that big omnibus volume that Michael holds up, they might be Silver Age technically in terms of the production value, but they are golden in terms of the realization of this character. They are the perfect realization of a clever, scientifically literate science fiction hero jetpack, ray gun, and all. Just wonderful. A perfect realization of the character right from the beginning. And after that, it's been one travesty after another. Just one travesty after another. The things that DC has done to this character, starting, I would say, with greenlighting a story by Alan Moore, in which we learn that the Zeta beam was not ever a communication device, that it was always a transport beam, and that it was bringing Adam Strange to Rann not so that he could be the planetary champion and save the day, but because Rannians were getting a little bit infertile, and they needed Adam Strange to service the women of Rann in order to produce a new generation of babies. Which, in typical Alan Moore fashion, not only is creepy, but also strips every last ounce of heroism out of the story completely, and makes whatever heroism is left look ridiculous. That was one thing. DC abandoned that after a little while, I guess, kinda, sorta, in a way. Every once in a while, a writer will who's quickly Googling Adam Strange or quickly glancing through DC archives will think, oh, so that was the story. They won't have any idea that Mystery into Space even existed. They'll just know the Alan Moore story. So they will allude to the fact that Rannians have a hard time reproducing. Whatever. And that was the least of it. It gets much, much worse from there. Every time this character shows up now, instead of smiling and thinking, yay, a new iteration of Adam Strange, instead I wince, thinking, what are they going to do to him this time? They're going to gouge his eyes out, or make him a messiah in a fake war, or make him a megalomaniac, or have him fight the heroes of the Justice League who are his friends. Or the latest extravaganza written by a DC writer named Tom King, who just he's a whole other video on his own. It's almost impossible to synopsize how bad this guy is. And he did a take on Adam Strange in which, because it's 2021, of course, Adam Strange, the hero of Rann, is a gormless, stumbling loser. I mean, he's a heterosexual white man, so he's got a gigantic crosshairs, a target right on his back, for any writer looking to curry favor with Twitter. And for some weird reason, every comic book writer in the world is looking to curry favor with Twitter, even though no one on Twitter reads comic books. I do not understand it. It's a fundamental disconnection that I like I mentioned, future historians will have to figure it out. I cannot figure out why you would kowtow to people who are not your customers. And drive away the people who are your customers in the process. I don't get that at all. But Tom King did a series, I think it might be over now. It featured an Alana who is a door overbearing, superior, stuck-up, you-know-what, who chain smokes for some reason. No idea why. And all she does is prop up and subtly undermine her feckless, ridiculous, weak-willed husband, Adam Strange, the great hero of the Silver Age. I read one issue of that Tom King run on Adam Strange, and then I have dipped in and out of other issues just to make sure that the first issue wasn't a satire. And it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just yet another deconstruction of an old hero. The type of thing that Marvel and DC now do on a regular basis. They do it at least once a week. So I don't look forward anymore. If someone were to announce tomorrow that DC is coming out with, let's say, Mystery in Space #1, The Adventures of Adam Strange. And let's say DC said, all right, well, we heard from you loud and clear. DC would never say this. Marvel Comics would never say this. But let's say they said, we heard from you fans loud and clear. We know you don't like what we did with this character. We're retconning all of that out of existence. And we're giving you Mystery in Space #1 featuring Adam Strange. The Silver Age Adam Strange having mind-boggling adventures. I don't know if DC were to do that. I think I would still probably hesitate because I've been burned so many times by this particular character. So when it comes to my two favorite DC characters, Steve's not doing very well because for a whole host of legal reasons, DC cannot produce Superboy, The Adventures of Clark Kent when he was a costumed teenager in Smallville. For a whole host of reasons, they cannot do that. That cannot be a Superboy comic book when the character is the character created by Siegel and Schuster as a teenager. You can have a clone Superboy, or you can have the current Jonathan Kent Superboy, where he's calling himself Superman even though he's in his late teens. But you can't have that. You can't have the character that I love most in DC Comics. And the character that I have second most in DC Comics, Adam Strange, has been traduced and travestied so many times in issues after this that he's unrecognizable. I haven't even kept up with all the horrible things that have happened, except for that Tom King series, which was kind of like, you know, the final blow. But I always have these issues, except I don't. Except I don't. I've looked, and I cannot find my archive editions of Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3 of Adam Strange Adventures. I cannot find them. And they strike me as the kind of thing that I would never get rid of. So I do not understand that, unless there's some box or cubbyhole here that I just haven't explored. But as it is, I don't have them. I don't have them in electronic form. I don't have them as print version. I don't have anything. The closest that I come is copies of those Justice League adventures that Adam Strange shares with the League. But other than that, no. Might have to rectify that before the end of the year. But anyway, that's our comic book for today. It's Adam Strange. Wonderful choice on Michael's part. A very preferable choice to his other alternative, which I just know is coming. Because I know part of the fun of this whole team up is letting him steer the ship. And I have to confess, a little guilty confession here, that before that video in which he shows us that he has 10 million $125,000 omnibus editions. Before that video, in other words, when he shows us that he's quite mad. Even before that, it was fun, but my guilty confession is that now that I know that he's quite mad, having him pick which thing is next is even more fun. But in this case, there's none of the disagreement that a lot of you are hoping for every week, because Michael loves these old adventures, and so do I. Don't you worry, though. He's bound to slip up or succeed, depending on how you look at it. He's bound to find something that I hate. He almost did this week. Maybe that'll be next week. But anyway, that's your Comic Book Wednesday for today. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.